Who is an asexual? An asexual is anyone who believes that air or inhaling hot burnt air is good for you. There are some people who use tobacco. They believe tobacco calms them down. They believe that inhaling burnt tobacco is good for them. Despite so many attempts by the Surgeon General to write inhaling of tobacco, burnt tobacco is bad for you on boxes, on despite the banning of publicity in magazines, in newspapers, and television by government all around the world, these people continue to inhale burnt tobacco. They are not giving it up. That's why so many attempts by government to make it hard to buy burnt tobacco for them to inhale, for them to use. These tobacco users have been told they cannot use tobacco in public, which is a very good thing because burnt tobacco is bad for anybody, and inhaling burnt tobacco can give and can create emphysema and other lung diseases, and can also cause cancer of the lungs. This the Surgeon General has warned since the 1940s. Despite so many attempts to stop the use of tobacco, burnt tobacco, I'm very careful that I use the word burnt tobacco anybody, because I don't want this video to be banned, because there is a global onslaught, or anybody who talks about burnt tobacco, it's seen as advertising of tobacco, and that person's videos, whatever that person's video can do, can be deleted off the internet. So burnt tobacco has been used for a long time, and despite the attempts to castigate them, the attempts to make them look bad, they cannot use burnt tobacco in public places. There's so much against people who use burnt tobacco, who inhale burnt tobacco. The amazing thing is these people have never held a rally, despite they are obviously addicted to inhaling burnt tobacco. They've never held a rally saying tobacco pride or anything. They've never created a tobacco flag. They've just been burning their tobacco in their own, because they don't really care. They don't really care what anybody is doing on them, because they are living their own lives. You can say you don't like them, you don't want a boyfriend who uses burnt tobacco, but people who use burnt tobacco don't really care. They're living their lives. They don't care about you. They're just living their personal lives and burning their tobacco in their houses. They don't really care what you say. They don't really care. These adverts on their boxes. This tobacco is bad for you. They don't really care. All they just want to do is burn their tobacco. So kudos has to be given to them, because they could behave in a very funny manner, and they could now have burnt tobacco pride. They could be marching around the streets. They could create a tobacco flag. They could getting footballers and organizers of events to recognize the use of tobacco, because yes, they do have a right as individuals to do whatever they want with their lives. But the government is right to make sure that this burnt tobacco doesn't become a public thing, because it's really addictive and it can destroy lives. So you have basically two people who are handling this thing very well. You have the government doing its part, and you have the burnt tobacco users who are not even kicking against the government. They're ready to walk kilometers to buy their packs of tobacco so they can burn it. I think the burning tobacco group or crowd or whatever they call themselves should be commended, because it is silly of them to now start creating tobacco pride. It will be silly of them to now start creating tobacco flags, with tobacco on it. I think it just shows the level of maturity, and it just shows you that they don't really care what you think about them. They're going to do whatever they're going to do. And I think that's maturity, because if people are against you, you shouldn't care what people think about you. You shouldn't hold rallies, like hold rallies against people, like people are against you, hold rallies. If you're really focusing your life and you're sure of what you're doing, you don't really care what people say about you. But all this going to the White House Should burn tobacco people go to the White House and get the president to say we have our rights, but people should talk less about burnt tobacco. They don't really care what you say. The signs are there. Don't use tobacco. Tobacco is bad for your health. It's everywhere. They've blocked tobacco companies from advertising, but these users just don't care and they are doing their thing. I think that's the best way to live life. They just don't care and they're not trying to push their tobacco use on people. They're not going to schools to tell people to use tobacco. They're just living their lives. I think it's commendable. You see, we live in a world where everybody has their frailties. Everybody is taking one substance or another or doing something bad. Like me, I'm a sugar maniac. I love sugar and I love drinking soft drinks. But I won't push sugar or sugar pride down anybody's neck. I will do my they say sugar is bad for you. That's people's business. I won't create a sugar flag. I'm just doing my thing. It's good for me. I don't care what you think about me. I'm not going to church and say there should be sugar marriage. I should get married to sugar because I love sugar. I take sugar a lot. So I'm not going around pushing my sugar need or my sugar addiction on people. I think that's the best way to live. If you have an addiction or you have a questionable way of life, you shouldn't push it down people's throat and you shouldn't ask people to accept your way. You should just live your life, because basically everybody has a flawed way of life. So nobody should go around trying to push an agenda on people because everybody has that. When everybody should just be quietly live their lives in sin. If your sin is drinking sugar, if your sin is womanizing, just do your thing and do your thing quietly. There's no point pushing an agenda or pushing a wonky way of life on people. So basically, I think the asexuals, those who love to inhale tobacco, are doing a fantastic job, despite governments around the world trying to crush them and crush their addiction. Don't inhale tobacco. Don't burn tobacco. It's all over. It's all over tobacco packs. So you see, I have to be careful just to call it tobacco and not really mention what it is because this video, because they are hated, this group of people are hated, the media is against them. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. So basically, I commend them. I commend people who burn tobacco. I commend their maturity. And I commend they are just living their lives. They're not trying to push it down people's neck. That we need to smoke tobacco. We need to inhale tobacco. It's a personal thing. You should just do it personally. There's no point dragging your wonkiness into the public domain. So that's all I have to say about groups that carry questionable practices and try to push questionable practices down people's throats. Everybody has a questionable practice, but you should understand because your practice is questionable, it's your own private questionable practice, and you should do it privately. And if you do it privately, nobody will know what you're doing, and people will leave you alone. I'm not going to say, oh, I take sugar, I drink sugar, because I know sugar is bad for me. So I'm not going to push any sugar. I'm intelligent enough. Sugar is bad for me. So I'm not. I do a lot of things that are bad for me, but I don't go around exhibiting them. I'm not going to march and form sugar pride and create a flag and start telling footballers to wear armbands with my sugar pride on it. I believe if I'm taking sugar, I should just take my sugar. I don't even know who else takes sugar like me. I have no sugar group because I don't care. I'm doing my own thing. I don't need a group to support my own needs. So that's just it. So thumbs up to everybody who is not hurting anybody, and who is having their questionable practices. Thumbs up to you if you're just doing it in secret, because it should be in secret. And if you know it's bad, thumbs up to you. There's no point going around, because I'm more than my sugar, more than my sugar addiction or my sugar drinking. I'm more than that. I have many problems. I'm not going to start marching down the streets and saying sugar pride. So that's just about it for today. And finally, before I go, because I use the word pride, some people might be gets very fancy about that word. But basically, there is black pride. There is black pride. There is Nigerian pride. So it's not, so the word pride doesn't belong to any group. And flags don't, belong to any group. Every organization has a flag. Because we live in a world where if you say one thing or the other, people just target you and want to crush you. And those same people who are saying they don't want to be crushed by others, but they go around crushing others. So it's basically the animal farm type of thing. You're a victim of societal prejudice, and anybody who talks about you becomes your own victim. So you have like victimization all over. You're victimized and you start victimizing others. But me, like the sexuals who just, who are just consuming tobacco, I don't really quite care because I know every day I have my own life to live. So this is Oloko and this is Oloko pride. I'm proud of myself, proud of my sugar intake. It's my own life. And, I try to reduce it. I used to drink 3 bottles of soft drink a day. I reduce it to twice a week. So I'm making progress.